way better roll. Way better. Like, love it. I'm like,
Ready?
okay. This is Haley. And this is Bailey. You're listening to Unleashed. I was going to ask you, this is how I was going to ask you, but what I was going to ask you, was how was your flight today? You are back at home.
I was yesterday, but thank you. It was great.
Yesterday?
Yes.
Oh, well, I'm on a lot of fun days. I'm in Europe, so don't quote me on the day we're on, okay? Because
Okay.
it gets really
so then
confusing.
Today. Okay, we'll say today.
Okay, today.
It was good. It was a short little flight. Wait, didn't you just fly too? You just flew yesterday too, right?
Oh yeah, I did. But I was just short.
Gosh.
I forgot.
How was your flight?
It's good. It was quick. It was just a little hop, skip, and a jump.
Hop, skip, and
I feel like I've been on so many planes. I think I've been on 5 planes in the last 2 weeks. I think I was counting that on the way here. So
were they big planes or little planes?
No, little planes, just like hoppers.
Hey Bailey, I feel like I know you really well, but do I really know you?
Do you really know me? That is what we are talking about today. Does anyone really know you? I feel like this is actually a really interesting conversation. And I read something today that said it takes somebody 6 months to 12 months of living with somebody to really get to know somebody, which is, I said somebody so many times.
Living
with somebody for 6 to 12 months.
So not just knowing them.
No, I think it said living with somebody, like in their space.
All right, Bailey, we're moving in.
We're moving in. We're doing a real test.
Kicking Evan to the curb. Bryce, they can go live together.
They'll get to live together for 6 months, and we'll get to live together for 6 months.
It sounds like a party. Now it's a party.
I feel like I could totally see, though, how that would be a thing. And I think there's different levels, though, of getting to know somebody. But I could see, like, the different seasons you go through. You were saying that earlier when we were talking before we got on the podcast, was going through different seasons. And I think that can mean, like, you know, throughout the year, but also like being sad, being sick, being happy, going through something hard, you know, like all these different things, and seeing how people react and talking to them through those moments to really get to know them in different ways. Because I think sometimes you don't even know, like maybe something's a trigger until something happens, or maybe you have a bad experience, but you never thought to tell somebody because it just didn't come to your mind until a certain situation. So I could totally see that. I think there's obviously different situations, like friends. You're not going to live with most friends for 6 months to 12 months, but like, do you take the time to get to know somebody? And I think that's something we wanted to talk about today, because we wrote down different topics, or not topics, but different questions to ask each other of how do you think somebody really gets to know you? Does anybody really know who you are? And I think it's going to be actually a very interesting conversation.
Spooky.
I know. It is spooky.
Mysterious. I think it also, I mean, yeah, there's lots of levels to getting to know someone, but there's also multiple things I think that you need to go through and do to be able to know them better.
100%. And I think something I at least feel is most people don't take the time to get to know somebody. That's what I feel. I think you can get to know somebody, but I think knowing somebody for a short amount of time versus a long amount of time is two very different things. And I think taking the time to ask people questions and really get to know them is not something I feel I see a lot of people doing. At least I don't think.
Oh yeah, that's something I love doing. Like our last podcast was about personality tests and zodiac signs and just getting to know someone. I love learning about people's personalities because at the end of the day, most of the time those quizzes don't lie. And so learning about who they are authentically to the core, that the areas that you may not be able to pick up on just because you're talking, because it's like just like the way they feel about themselves and the way they perceive things, those can all be certain different types of levels and variations of really knowing someone.
Totally. That's what I think. And we say this a lot in our podcast, but like another reason why we started a podcast was every time we do a podcast, our audience gets to know us in a different way, and we get to know each other in more depth. And I think it's something like we sit down and we come up with these different topics, and we get to dive into each other's lives in so many different ways. And you get to know me more, I get to know you more, and then our audience gets to know us more. And I think there's just so many amazing questions you can ask. And it's just like we were talking, you just said, like our last podcast, the zodiac signs and personality test. That's a little thing, but that's a layer to somebody, and you get to know them in a completely different way because you sat down and you took the time to talk about that.
Okay. But are people's first impressions of you a good representation of who you are? Because like you can't. I feel like you
I
can't
don't
really know
know.
someone right off the bat.
I don't feel that most first impressions would 100% describe who I am. And I think
Mhm.
it's because it's situational. If you meet me in an where I'm not completely confident, you're going to get a completely different vibe of me. If you meet me maybe when I'm out, that's something I don't do very often,
If you
but you're
meet
going to
me on
get
social media.
yeah, you meet me on social media, you might have a completely different idea of who I am. Like what I'm sharing on social media is obviously not every single second of my life, even though I try and share a lot. You're going to think something else. So personally, I think it would be very hard to know somebody off a first impression. What do you think about
Mhm.
that?
Absolutely. What was it? There's like some quote about first impressions that's like you get one, but then I'm thinking of a Taylor Swift song. Just kidding. I just went to her concert. Sorry, guys. I'm just so confused now.
I was actually going to say something off that. Do you think you can change? Everyone always says you have one first impression. That's it. Like
Oh, I
you
do not agree with that at all.
do you think you can have a second first impression?
Absolutely. Because
Mm.
like you said, it's situational. Like if you were to meet me, I don't know, at a restaurant, I'm probably more. I don't know. Actually, I can't. See, it really just depends because I remember I ran into someone at a restaurant and I was like caught off guard and I was like la, la, and I actually called them the wrong name.
Yeah, I could
Because
totally see that
it
happening.
just like threw me off, and so that doesn't look great. But I knew them already. But okay. Let me just give you the story. It was an old coworker. We did not get along, and it'd been maybe a year since I'd seen her. And we were walking out of the restaurant. I was walking out, they were walking in, and I recognized her, and she recognized me. And like we were cordial, it wasn't anything bad. But uh I was like, "Oh, hi. How's it going?" I was like, "Hi, Carrie." And that was not her name. Her name was Lori. And I was like, and she's like, Lori, and I knew that wasn't her name too. I was like, "Crap." And it just like only I knew that only made it worse. And so I was like, "Crap. Yep, that's nope, that's done. Game over. You still don't like me. Okay, I'm not okay. Have a
You
good
had your
night."
chance you had your
Yeah.
chance for another first impression and it just,
Yes.
it was all over there. But
Yep.
you
Brutal.
but there are those situations where you're so overwhelmed. Like I was thinking when you were saying like out at a restaurant, I was thinking of like Hudson when he just like isn't in the best mood or something like that and I'm then more stressed or have anxiety and then if someone comes up to me, I'm not able to like actually be present and give probably who I would normally be. And I could see that maybe when you have kids and your kid is like running around being crazy and you meet somebody. I'm sure you're that so I think it's situational and I'd be curious to see what other people think, but I do know a lot of people think you have one first impression and that's it. So I'd be curious to see if like we should do a poll on our stories and ask, do you think there's a chance for a second first impression?
I think that's a good one. When you're making a first impression with someone, sorry, I think this is really interesting. Is there some type of is there someone that like whenever you go to meet them for the first time, like a certain type of person, whether if it's like a friend or a family or I don't know, acquaintance, coworker, whatever it might be, that you like, oh, I really got to nail this. Like, I want them to like me, and because like for example, I don't really care if like someone I'm meeting like casually that is friends of a friend, like, okay, cool. I'm not gonna be a jerk, obviously. I'm not like that. But like I just like whatever. But like, for example, when I was meeting your parents, I was like, I really want them to like me. And I think that's just how I am with my friends' parents too, because majority of them haven't liked me because they've known me when I was in high school and I was crazy and very I don't know, all over the place. I wasn't bad, but I was just like it was just like hard to be around me for a long period of time just because I had a lot of energy. But I think that kind of stems to I just want my friends' parents to really like me.
I think for sure there's people that you go into a situation and you put so much pressure on them liking you that you probably are almost not yourself. You are, but like you're also not. And I feel like something when you said that was like when I met Evan's parents, like I remember being like, I want them to like me so much. It's not that like I thought they wouldn't, but like you also don't know when you go into a new situation and you obviously really care and value that person's opinion because you know they're important to somebody. So for you, it's like, my parents are important to me. You know, I know Evan's parents are important to him. So you put pressure on it, and like I saw myself slowly like relax more around them over time of knowing them. But like I think that's totally normal to put pressure on yourself. And then also you said like there's certain people you don't care. Like you go into it and you're like, okay, like I'm confident. Like I'm not worried. And I think that can come with time sometimes because I used to be so nervous. Like every time I'd meet like someone new, I'm like, what they think of me? And now as I gotten older, I'm like, okay, like this is me. But those are like random people. And I could see how, that's very different than meeting somebody you know and you value and you want them to like you. Even though you're not going to change who you are, you still have this pressure of them to like you. And your first impression, I guess, is really kind of going back to what we were
Mhm,
talking about.
mhm. Do you feel like you can pick up on what kind of a person someone is fairly quickly, or do you think it takes you some time to get to know them?
I feel like sometimes, but I definitely wouldn't say like right away. I feel like I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm always like, oh, like it was this or that. And Evan is so quick to like read somebody. So I feel like compared to him, I definitely don't read people as quick. Like
I
he
was
picks up.
so off with Evan. Oh man, I butchered that one. I still am learning lots about him.
It's so, but see, it's like different with each person. It's also
Yeah.
different, like with dynamics and who the person is and where you are. Like, that's something we're going to talk a lot about is like, where are you in life? Like, when you meet somebody, like, are you super confident at that time? Do you feel like you really know them? Like you said, are you going into it with nerves or not? Or all those things I feel like can help you either read somebody or like you're so worried about like how you're acting, you're not really paying attention to their, like how they are.
Mhm. No, it's a good point. And was there ever a time in your life you've noticed where you maybe your first impressions weren't what you wanted them to
For
be?
sure. When I was in high school, I feel like I was just not in a good relationship. I was so insecure because of it. I, didn't really know what I wanted or what I liked. And I feel like I look back and I'm like, yeah, probably my first impressions were not always the best at that point. It's not like I was bad or I did anything bad. I just am not who I am today. And I am so much more confident in who I am now that like I'm going to be who I am. And in high school, I probably was a little more concerned on what other people thought and was probably doing what I thought people wanted me, how they wanted me to act versus acting exactly who like as I was.
Mhm. That's a really good point. Yeah. I totally high school was easily those times where you're just like, "Ah,"
The
especially
funny
looking
thing
back.
Yeah, right? The funny thing is I feel like I was always really good with parents because I was a babysitter, so I like always was with parents and then I was an only child, so I was always around adults. Where when it came to like people my age, that was more nerve-wracking for me than being around people's parents. And I feel like you were just saying parents are like, people in your life that you really care about. Parents are more the nerve-wracking factor than
Yes,
like
yes.
people your age probably.
For for sure. I was just talking about this with Bryce and my dad actually about how there's a certain personality type that I mean, tell me if you agree with this or not. But if you're like a mean girl or a mean guy, that will you'll be labeled that forever. Like no
Mm,
matter what.
from high
No
school,
matter
like if somebody
yeah,
doesn't get to
even
know
to
you.
this day. Yeah, to this day even like it doesn't matter what has happened or what you have done, even if you've changed. If you are a mean person at some point, you will be remembered like that. I mean, maybe not to everyone, but like if you like, for example, if you're a target of bullying, that person will always be a bully to you.
Yeah. That's super true. I feel like that was definitely something I feel like you remember about people, especially leaving high school. Like I feel like I was always the person who was like, I want to include everyone. I want to be friends with everybody. I want to, but then those people that were mean stand out to you. And I think when you walk away from high school, you don't talk to a lot of people. So then like however those people acted is probably sticks with you. Then you have somebody that was mean or something and that really sticks with people. And but also like you just said like the mean, I also feel like the opposite side, the people that were really giving and nice, that also sticks with
Yes.
people. And I
Oh,
think
absolutely.
how you act is so important. So like and I think that comes down to who you are. Like I feel like both of us have always been like very like we want to include everyone, we want to be nice to everybody, but maybe we didn't always get that back. And I feel like you remember those people that were nice, but you also very much remember those people that were mean and didn't include you and made you not feel good about yourself. It's always the extremes. I feel like you really
Absolutely.
remember.
Yeah. I remember there was a girl in my high school and she was so nice. Like everybody, I mean, I think we would probably consider her a popular girl. I mean, I say that with air quotes, but she just made everyone feel really good about themselves. And that I remember I was walking down the hallway and I had a class with her once. I mean, we weren't like the best of friends, but we talked every now and then. And we were going in to get our student ID photos taken. And I was just walking and she's like, "Hi, Haley." And I was like, "You, what?" She's like, "How was your summer?" And I was so thrown off because I was like, "Oh, hi." She was just so nice. I was like, that was not normal. Like, people did not do that in my high school. They did not go out of their way to like talk to people unless you were like friends. And so I don't know why I always will remember that. But like I told my niece recently that people will not remember what you do or what you wear or the things you, I don't know, those like materialistic things, any of that. But they'll remember how you make them feel forever. That's how you will be remembered. And if you're a mean person or a nice person, that will be carried on. And so, what side of the fence do you want to be a part of? And I just kind of have always kept that in the back of my head.
Definitely. I think that's such a good point, and it's definitely something that does stick with you for such a long time.
And I think it kind of circling back to our whole topic here of, do people really know you? I mean, do you want to categorize? I don't know if people actually will like look in the mirror and think, "Hey, oh yeah, I'm a mean girl," or "I'm a mean guy," or I'm really nice." Like, I don't think so. I think that really depends on the maturity level and the phase you are in life. But if you take a time to reflect on your actions when you're talking to someone, are you referring everything back to yourself, or do you actually take time to invest in asking them questions? I saw a reel that said, rather than like, if someone's interested in pottery, rather than being like, "Oh yeah, I knew someone who does pottery," and making it about you, being like, "Oh, well, what made you interested in pottery? That's a different type of hobby." Or um how do you get the clay to hold? Like, kind of making it to get them to talk. But the problem is people don't often reciprocate that back, and so it usually can become one-sided, and that's when you don't really get to know someone on the other end. So you just have to make sure that when you're conversating, you're getting to know them and you're communicating back and forth, not just about one person, but you're also asking about them and so on and
Vice
forth.
versa. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I could totally see that. I think, like we said at the beginning, is sitting down and really taking the time to get to know somebody, but also, like you just said, asking somebody questions, but actually listening and actually having interest. Because I think a lot of times when somebody asks somebody a question, maybe they have their own insecurities on this question, or maybe they have their own emotions on this question. So when the person answers, they're not really listening. They're so focused on what they feel or what they think. And I see that so much, and something I'm probably sure I've even worked through. Like we all have to work through that. We all have things that are insecurities or hard to talk about or whatever it is. But I feel like finding people that actually, like, you can tell, like when they ask you a question, they're like listening. They want to get to know you. They want to hear what you have to say, and having a conversation and it going both ways. And not every single conversation is going to go both ways. Sometimes it's going to go just one way, but overall in your friendship, that it's a back and forth and or relationship. It doesn't have to just be friends. It can be family members. It can be friendships. It can be relationships. Like, actually getting to know somebody is asking them questions. Also, I think showing up when things are not easy. I think that's a key one, is like getting to know them when it's not just easy, because it's
Yes.
easy to show up when it's easy.
Yeah, it's kind of like we said, going through all the seasons together, and we don't mean that like just literally, but like metaphorically. Um, of course, it's easy to show up when things are great, smooth, but how do you react to when someone's going through something hard, and how do they treat you? Because if someone's treating you poorly when things are going bad, but then they only treat you nicely when things are good, that shows a lot of character and what shows their world, their insecurities, and so it's hard because if they can't show up for if they're treating you poorly during their own insecurities, how would they be there for you and supporting you during yours? And if you need that support.
I think that's so true though, because I think it's so many people struggle with their own insecurities. And I
Mhm.
think the more I look at people and the more I look at relationships and the more I've been like really, I feel like this last year I've been really like paying attention to the people that are in my life that want to be there, that show up for me when it's not easy. When, they ask me the questions, ask me any question, just, know it's maybe something hard or maybe thinking about me in those moments, or ask me, I don't know, just really getting to know me. And I just don't think a lot of people have the capacity maybe to do that because they haven't found what makes it really comes back to you. Are you confident in who you are? Do you love who you are? Because how can you show up and get to know somebody else if you don't know yourself? And I've said this in another podcast about like relationships and different things like that, but it's like when I was insecure and when I was younger and I didn't have great relationships around me, I didn't know how to completely show up as the best like person to get to know somebody because I was so worried about myself and how I was coming off and all these things that I think it really a lot of it comes back to you and getting to know somebody else. So I don't know. I feel like getting to know somebody is very tricky and like the level of getting to know somebody is also very tricky because it's like everybody's going to know you so differently, I think. I don't think anybody knows you the same. Like, everybody knows you differently.
No. Yeah, everyone has different pieces to the puzzle, I think, and I mean, I don't feel like everyone should have access to all those pieces, obviously, and I don't think they ever will. I don't think that's possible. But who has the most pieces to your puzzle? Who knows you? And I want to ask you, what levels or categories or topics make it so someone knows you really well? Like, is it secrets? Is it spending time together? Is it, I don't know, dynamics, family? Like, I don't know, what about getting to know someone really well makes it so that you know them really well?
I think time and I think conversating. I think asking questions. I think time because the longer you know somebody, the more things you go through, the more questions you ask, and the more changes you've gone through with that person because people are always changing. But I think questions comes down to you can spend time with friends or family. You can do all these things, but never ask somebody about themselves, never like really get in deep conversation. So then you don't really know them. You might have spent a lot of time with them, but have you ever spent the time to get to know them? So I'd say time and questions are probably the main two things for me because I think that's what I've found with the relationships that I'm closest with right now is that it's down to those two things. And I think time though, like sometimes in a short amount of time you can really get to know somebody, but there's layers that are added over longer time. So like for me and you, very early on, we got very comfortable and got to know each other pretty well. But over time, we've got to know each other in very different ways because of things we have gone through, which has led to different conversations and different topics.
That is, yeah, nailed it on the head. It there really isn't, it's not a complex question. And there is not a lot, I don't think there's a lot of depth to it. I think it's just like you said, asking questions and then time. But I think also making sure that it's sincerity, because you can't you can spend all the time in the world with people and it be, surface. And is that who they are? I don't feel like anyone is surface. We all have depth, and some people just don't allow themselves to be deep, but they still have layers to them that have made that person. And just some people aren't comfortable sharing that. That's fine. But there is, I think, one person that will always have a little bit more to knowing who they are. I mean, isn't it Evan that said it's our experiences that make us who we are? I mean, that he always talks about that.
He
And
always
it's
talks
true.
about that.
Yeah, it's true. And it's what makes us who we are today. I mean, I can't say that I love going through everything I've gone through, but I wouldn't be able to talk about these experiences on our podcast if I hadn't. And so, yeah, I mean, if I look back, I would have been like, I definitely could do without that or without that. But, I can't change the past. And so I just have to, how am I going to move forward with the future? And these things are what help bond people to get to know them to different levels. Cause some people just can't understand that. And even if you don't understand someone's experiences, doesn't mean you can't know them. But I think it adds to getting to know someone when someone can maybe empathize or respect or be like, that does sound hard, even if they didn't go through that. And kind of have that sincerity to them when someone's talking about who they are as a person.
There was a couple things on that you said that I'm going to kind of backtrack on, but something you said was Evan's always said like your history, your past is part of you. You said it a little differently, but that I feel like is so true, and that's something that I feel like I learned from him and I brought into our friendship, and you brought it in one way too, but he was very much like when we started dating was like tell me about your past. And I feel like everybody I always talked to was like, oh, we don't talk about our past. And not every, but like a lot of my friends like, oh, we don't talk about our past. That's in the past. But Evan was like, no, like that makes you who you are. Like that is why you maybe have a trigger, maybe why you feel certain ways during this. And over time, we just, like different conversations, we learned a lot about each other in our past and understood each other in a new way that it built our relationship to be strong in that way. And then when we became friends, we slowly added on, let's use our friendships. We had hard friendships. And when we have a hard time together, we both know to be like, hey, I know you've had a hard past in this. I'm showing up for you. I'm here. Like, I'm not leaving. But if I didn't know you had that, I couldn't show up and say, hey, I know maybe you're scared. Hey, I know maybe you're this. Or you do the same to me because I've been scared before. I've had fears of our friendship because I've had hard friendships. But if you didn't know that about me, how are you going to know that I need you to show up like that for me sometimes? So I think it is interesting that you say getting to
Yeah.
know people is a lot about knowing their past too.
Yeah, it really is. It's the core. I think with that too, and I'm not saying everybody has to do this, but I think it's a great way to get to know someone is to travel with them. You learn so much about a person, and I think honestly, that's like we talk a lot, and like when we up leading up to when we first took our first trip together in January. I mean, that was a pivotal moment though, because that time was when I talked to you about things that were so personal to me that I have not disclosed to, I mean, I can count on one hand how many people. And there was a sense I've established trust with you. There was that relationship. I mean, it was just, there were things that, and it just gave us that opportunity to really like, take it to the next level of getting to know each other. And I think traveling is a great way of doing that with people.
I agree. I think traveling is such an interesting way to get to know somebody because you're out of your element. You're not comfortable.
Absolutely.
You're
Different
you're
season.
both yeah. You're both out of your element. If it's a relationship, if it's a friendship, if it's family, whatever it is, you're not in somebody else's space. And you're both in a neutral environment that you get to know each other in a different way. And I think it's a really good way to get to know somebody. And I have done a lot of travel these last couple of years, and I can tell you it has definitely helped me at least get to know. But in one way, like even traveling together, but I would say even like for people like us, like me being gone, like even if we're not together, it's also a test in a different way, like traveling and not being on the same time zone. So I think that's one, getting to know people like that you're traveling with, but also getting to know people that are back home and who you're talking to. Because okay, if you go on like a week trip, that's different. But like me being gone for 2 months, like that's a whole different
2
story.
months? Is it 2 months?
It's gonna
Man,
be
it
2 months, yeah.
feels like a year.
So you've been gone forever.
I'm like, you told me when you're coming back. I'm like, that's like tomorrow.
It's in a month,
It's
by
like
the
a
way.
month. Yeah. Like it feels like tomorrow because it's like, wow, I thought you were gone a lot longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true though. I think that with these different levels you add in, you get to know someone, and it's honestly, you really get to know someone when you go through the mud, when you go through the hard stuff. I mean, I was watching Perfect Match. We've talked about the show. It's on Netflix if you're not familiar with it. Watch it if you like. If you have, then you know what I'm talking about. But like they talk about these couples, and they have to pick which couple at the very end is the perfect match. The only one can be. And the one that I thought I liked the most was the one that was really put on multiple tests. They had lots of different challenges they had to overcome, and they still were strong. I think that whether it's a relationship, a family member, friendships, it doesn't matter who it is. The people that show up and know you will have gone through the mud with you, and at the end of the day, will still be there to support you. I think as long as there's still respect and that sincerity still behind it, obviously, but you can't you can't just expect things to be easy and that person to just all of a sudden be there, you know? I mean, and both parties have to be reciprocated of it too. Like you can't have a one person who's all about themselves and then another person who wants to give, and because then it's just there's an imbalance and that won't work. That won't be sustainable, and then you're only learning everything about you might know that other person really, really well, but do they know you?
Yeah, and I think it's I don't know. I personally feel like I don't have that many people that really, really know me. And I think that, that's the main thing. Does anybody really know you? And I feel like people can get to know you to an extent. I think there is an extent, but it's how many people take that time to get to know you. Like you said, like going through the mud, going through those situations, showing up. And it's interesting because I feel like, is it friends that show up the most? Is it a relationship that shows up the most? Everyone's gonna have different people. Is it family? Because I feel like everyone's dynamics are so different. And who really, like, some people might say my family knows me the best. Some people might say my friends know me the best. And I think it's so different on each situation. Do you feel like there's a certain category that really knows you well? Like, is it your family? Is it friends? Is it Bryce? Is it, like, I feel like there's different.
Yeah, it's fine. I was about to ask you a similar question with that.
See, great minds think
Do you,
alike.
yeah, I was like, does your family actually know you, or do you think they know you? Because it's family. I mean, I think my mom and my sister know me to my core. I think my dad knows me to the level of our relationship should know me. Like I think that I feel like the level of knowing me shouldn't be the same for every person. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. Some things are best just you don't have to talk about everything. Um, but like my brothers, not a chance in the world. They don't know. And they probably think they do, which is fine.
A lot of
I'm
people think
okay
they
with
know
that.
you.
I know. And that's the thing. I know tons of people from college I thought I knew. I mean, a new season changed and I was like, oh, joke's on me. I clearly was not aware of that at all. Like, and it's just like how it is. Sometimes it just happens that way. But I mean, what about you? Do you think there's a certain category of people or like type of person that knows you really well?
I would say like my parents both know me very, 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 very well, and Evan knows me very, very, very well. But I also think that comes from like me being an only child. Like it's only me and my parents. Like those were the
Yeah.
people that I always went to.
Yeah.
Um, and then Evan was who came in and showed me that like other people can show up. And I felt like until I met Evan, I didn't really think other people cared as much about knowing who I was. So I feel like, but like also it's how much time you spend with somebody. Like how long have you, been with somebody for them to get to know you? Like Bryce, I'm sure knows you inside and out. Like he can read you like a book, and like my parents, it's like I call them about everything. But I know that's not the same for everyone. And I think being an only child has a lot to do with that for me at least. Like that led me to going to my parents for everything. I didn't have a sister to go to that I would tell everything to. It was like I went to my mom. So for me, I always felt like family was such a like know me really well. But then like extended family, like they know me, but do they like know me? Not like my parents.
They know you as Bailey, the, cousin or the niece or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, but like the core. And I mean, do you think that knowing a person can have different like I was saying earlier, like my dad knows me to what I want him to know me as, which I deem him as this sounds weird. He knows me to what I want him to know me as. Which that sounds like shady. Not like shady, but like there's just some things you just don't have to
It's just like a
disclose to everyone.
dad-daughter relationship.
Yes, exactly. It's not like my mom and I talk about things that I know for a fact my
Your
dad is
dad
like,
doesn't want to.
"No."
Please
He's
don't
like,
tell me.
"Yes." He's like, "Stop talking." And so I'm just like, "Okay, well, if you want to know, let me know." But but I know that that's not the relationship. So I think knowing someone can also have different types of knowing them. And that is also because I feel like when you look at it coming full circle, you can know someone really well based on who the person is and the relationship. Because I wouldn't want, like, I don't know, everybody knowing everything about me because that wouldn't make it, would that make like the relationship between you and me, wouldn't that make it the same then? Or would it
Yeah, it
not?
would be.
I,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
But I feel like that is true. Everybody knows you differently. How you know me is different
It's,
than how Evan knows me and
yeah.
how my
Yeah,
parents know
exactly.
me. But it's like those levels. Like how many people like actually take again the questions. How many people actually take the time to get to know you outside of this surface? Like yes, people know you, but do they know how you feel during this situation? Do they know how you felt during this? Like there's just layers that keep adding on layers. And I think you get to pick who you let in too. Somebody can try to get to know you and ask you all these questions, but they're not the person you're going to tell. They're not the person you feel comfortable with. So it's like, like you're going to tell your dad certain things. Yeah, like that makes sense. Like I tell my mom certain things that I don't tell my dad, so like they know you in different ways. And I think it's an interesting one because I feel like how much you're changing too. Like who's with you through it all? Those are the people that
Yes.
know you. That
Yes.
like your
Who
parents, they've been there since you were a baby. Like obviously they know you in a way nobody's going to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. I mean, and is someone gonna be okay with you being different? And some people are not going to accept, like, I know that there are people I did not have the best, like, friendships with, and it was definitely from both ends. It wasn't just me or it wasn't just them. I know it was a two-way street here, but I think about it now and who I am now, and I'm like, gosh, I wish I could show them who I am now to see if that would have changed anything, or if it was just was it me or was it them? Because you can't like expect someone to come into a relationship or friendship and because you've changed doesn't mean they've changed. And if they do, I mean, they might have their guard up. Okay, so when Bryce and Evan were starting to get to know each other and they were texting, Evan asked Bryce a very specific question, and Bryce was like, "What does that mean? I don't know how to answer this question." It's like, no one's asked you that before. What the heck? I'm like,
What was the
that's really.
question?
It was, what do I need to know? Oh, this is what Evan said. What do I need to know about Bryce? That's what he said, and I was like, that's a really loaded question. What? And I'm like, I don't actually know what he
Like how
responded
it went.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if someone were to ask you that, man, Evan, you are just really sparking all these like good talking
Good
points
job.
today. You're on
She's really
fire.
she's on fire. Who doesn't even know?
um, if someone asked you that, what do I need to know about Bailey? What would your response be? Would it be something you like, something, a hobby? Would it be an experience? Would it be something you're doing? I mean, what would your natural response be when someone said, "What do I need to know about Bailey?"
I think it would be dependent on the person, but I think for a main thing right now, I would probably say how much I travel. I think that's like one of the main things that's making me a lot about who I like shows who I am. Like I'm growing a lot. I'm not able to show up and be around as much as a lot of people want me to be. There's a lot of things that fall into that category that I think are an interesting, yeah, there's so much more, but I think that's a big part of me right now. And that's not going to be forever, like that's going to be my answer right now. But I think that's been like a big thing I've been very clear on is like telling people that because I've realized I need to be clear with how I can show up for people, how I expect people to show up for me, how I'm kind of picky with who's in my life right now because it's not easy to be in my life right now. So there's like multiple things. I think that's probably what I would probably
That's a
lead with.
really good response. That's a really good answer. Hot
It
diggity.
just came to me. So now I'm going to ask you, what would you say?
Crap. It's like,
Why'd I ask that question?
I don't know. I mean, what do I need to know about Haley? I think I am. This sounds weird. I'm funny. I'm humorous. I like jokes and I can be sarcastic. I think it's more about my personality type because I don't have really a consistent thing I'm doing right now. I mean, I have like my work stuff obviously and like I travel a lot too, but I mean, it's just different. I think at the end of the day that's kind of what I cling to. I just a sense of humor for me is that's like you need to know that I crack jokes and it like that was something I remember when we were first talking. You were like, "I don't get sarcasm." And I was like, "Uh-oh."
I'm getting it more now though.
Yes, you
Me and
are.
me and Evan
You
have
are
been giving each other a hard time. Like you've been waiting for this for 4 years, haven't you?
I'm ready. You're like,
I'm here.
unleash the Kraken.
You can give me a hard time now. Before, no, but now, sure.
That is so funny. But yeah, like and that when you understand that humor is a huge part of my life. Like I was talking about this with my dad, and I definitely got my sense of humor from my dad. And people are just like, they're so serious. They don't crack jokes. And I'm just like, how? Like, how do you not I don't know, it's just, like, such a liberating thing for me. I love laughing, and that is when you learn that at the end of the day is my core of who I am and, like, what I love, then that it just kinda goes into everything else. Um, I hope that can count as that.
For that does. I was also gonna say, but this is like a for me, you really, really like to get to know somebody for who they are. I would say that's probably very specific to very specific people. But like for me, like if you ask me a question, you'll like keep going. Like you're like, tell me more, tell me this. And Evan was the same way. And I think you guys have showed me like what, like, yeah, maybe that's not like the main thing you would tell somebody, but it kind of leads back into like getting to know somebody. And I feel like you're very like, if people are in your life and like, let's say somebody, I guess it would only apply to somebody you want really close to you. But if somebody was like me coming into your life, what would I want to know is like how much you want to get to know somebody that's important in your life, that's going to be there and be a big part of your life. You want to really get to know because I think you're pretty picky with who comes into your life. You're not just letting anybody in. Maybe you have a lot of people on the outside. Like I know a lot of people, but how many people, I guess I kind of like would be an answer, but not really. But I think that would be a very specific person, not as broad of an answer. But I feel like you really like to ask all the questions.
Yes, I remember there's a question I will always ask someone when I'm first getting to know them. If it's like that kind of a thing, but it's I learned that this is a great way to tell what kind of a person is, usually, not always, but it's a very simple question, and it's what is your favorite movie?
Yeah, but then I threw you off with that.
Yeah, you
Excited now.
did, and that's why I was like, "What?" You're like, "I don't
Tell
really watch
me.
movies," and I was like,
You're maybe this is a sign. All the things you asked me at the beginning just threw you real off, and then you're like, "Wait, this girl's acting
yeah,
my
but I
question
could
really
tell.
seem."
I could tell that you had like a wall up, and I knew that, and I was like, "There's more to this chick. I can feel it." So
We
it's like,
just we just put our walls up at different times.
okay, but I am gonna ask you this question again now. What is your favorite movie?
I don't know.
You still are like, I don't know. A year later,
I
over a
don't
year
know.
later.
This is too hard of a question. I feel like it puts too much pressure on me. Who it describes who I am to you? I don't know on the top of my head. Vito.
Vito. I've never heard of that movie.
Vito.
Is that like in the Minions movie Despicable Me when he's like Vito,
Yeah,
Vito, Vito?
Vito.
See, I'm an avid movie quoter. Like,
Okay, so Evan's been quoting movies lately, and I'm like, who are you? Evan's. See, I just don't remember movie quotes.
yeah.
That's a fun
Well,
fact
I'm
about
still
me.
not letting you slide from this
Except
question.
Friends. One day you'll get an answer, but you're not getting it now. so stubborn. I really don't know.
You don't know?
No. If I knew,
All
I'd
right.
tell you.
We're gonna come back to this eventually. We'll let you know.
Eventually, keep listening to our podcast and you'll find out one day.
Comment your favorite movie. Yes, that's a question we should ask people. What is your favorite movie?
And why.
We're gonna be like, why? What does this have to do with that?
Yeah, no relation whatsoever.
I'm gonna answer the question. My favorite movie, one of them, is The Other Woman. I made you watch it with me in Florida.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. It's a good movie.
Yeah, it was a great movie. It's such a killer movie. It's not killer, like it's a great movie, not like a killer movie. Gosh,
yeah.
It's
Friends
a comedy.
is my favorite TV show. Does that count? I can answer that one easily.
Yeah, TV show. Okay, that's a good one. I think that was the follow-up question I asked you actually after the movie one because you couldn't answer that. You said that you really liked Friends. I remember that. I was like, I like Friends. Okay.
We're like one thing in common. No, great. Here we
I
go.
know. I asked if you watched Schitt's Creek and you were like, no. I was like, gosh, dang it.
Yeah, I couldn't get Evan past episode 1, and we watch all our shows together. So because we're together.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. On that really off topic of movies, we want to ask, how do you unleash yourself by getting to know other people? What ways do you ask people questions? What's something that you do to get to know someone? Is it time? Is it asking questions? Is it finding out their favorite movie? Is it going and traveling together? What ways or methods do you usually default to get to know someone on a different level? So comment, let us know.
And I feel like maybe even taking the time to step back and think about how can you get to know somebody in your life better? How can you show up more? Because I think I'm always working on that too. And that's something I've been really trying to think about is how can I show up as a better friend, as a better daughter, as a better cousin, as a better girlfriend, like all those things. I think this topic was such a fun way to dive into how we've gotten to know people, how people have gotten to know us, and maybe to just take a step back and think about how can you show up and get to know the important people in your life.
This is episode 9 of our podcast. We have one more until the end of season 2, and then we have season 3 coming in hot. We usually do lives the week our podcast comes out. However, the last couple we've had some rescheduling conflicts. So just keep following us on Instagram and we'll keep you updated. I'm sure when season 3 comes along, we'll probably be resuming those a little bit more consistently. But again, it just really varies on our traveling schedule. But thank you so much for being patient with us and following along.
Thanks.